What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. The setup from yesterday ended up being quite a success. I posted it on X. Ultimately, we didn't manage to hit 2R, but once price hit like 1.6, 1.7R, I moved my stop loss into the green, and so I ended up with about 1R. Not the best day, but at the same time, a win's a win. We're not going to complain, especially considering that right now I'm spending a lot of my time traveling and not too much kind of like really locked in on trading. So again, if this is not proof that you can do this in under an hour a day, even though you're doing something else, then yeah, I don't know what's going to prove it. But anyways, if you'd like to do this for yourself as well, where you're trading under an hour a day and still make decent money, and you can learn exactly how to do this using the first link in the description box below. Blueprint closes in 9 days. So if you'd like, join in. If you don't, let's get into the video. So the setup for Bitcoin today is going to be a bullish daily bias. Like again, we have overall a bullish weekly bias anyways, so we're going to be inclined towards longs throughout the entire week. And so far, we're coming into a bullish fair value gap over here, which means technically we have already fulfilled 2 out of the 3 conditions needed to, basically confirm a high probability setup for today, which is we have a daily bias aligning towards the bullish side. Secondly, we're coming back into a bullish PDO rate on 1 hourly chart. All we need now is for some sort of bullish order flow, especially on the 5-minute chart, or ideally on the 1 hourly chart. Now, before we get into that though, it's good to just pay attention to what type of news that we have today. And immediately you can see that we have a CPI at 8:30 a.m., which kind of leads me to believe that the best trading times for today is going to be the hour between, the hour before news, so the hour after news. So basically starting from 7:30 all the way going into 9:30. That is going to be the ideal time. Like if you could focus your trading in that timing, that is how you ultimately are able to just kind of like travel during the entire day and then come back home. In my case, I'm in Asia, so I come back home, I finish dinner, sit down at the chart, and within a solid hour, basically manage to get a good trade. And like it's super simple. It doesn't seem like it seems a little bit counterintuitive because oftentimes people's kind of like conception about trading is that you have to be locked in for like multiple hours a day. But the thing is, trading's not a job, right? And the truth is we're not getting into trading because we want another job. We want freedom to be able to work from anywhere and whenever we want to. So it kind of defeats the purpose if you have to be like locked in. For some people it works, and I'm not denying that. But at the same time, there's also another way to do things, which is exactly what you're looking for, how a high quality setup looks like, and that most of your trading is going to be mostly concentrated into a couple of high probability hours throughout the day. And as long as you just are around the charts around that time, then boom, right? Chances are you're going to get something decent. Before now, just understand that even though we are, coming into a hourly PD array, the hourly order flow is actually still bearish, right? Technically speaking, just looking at the swing from this point onwards. Obviously, if you go zoom out a little bit, then yeah, you have a bullish CISD over there and like everything is still bullish. So either way, we're still just going to be looking for a long today. Not only are we coming back into a bullish fair value gap, but we're also coming into a bullish order block. So at this point on, like from this moment, like it's already good enough to just start kind of looking for a long. In this case, we would ideally need some sort of 5-minute bullish CISD. So a break above 71,700 by the time you watch this video, that will kind of give you that bullish CISD. Also, another very positive sign for today that leads me to believe that this is going to be an A+ setup is the fact that the Asia lows have been swept during the London session. Now, after you swept the Asia lows, you're coming into a bullish hourly PD array. So basically sweeping out a lot of false stops into some sort of liquidity level. And then at this point, you just need that 5-minute CISD. This is a textbook A+ setup. And ideally, if you also get that bullish CISD around the hours of, again, 7:30 to 9:30, like that's going to be the ideal trade for today, right? Let's just put it that way. Now, the potential invalidations for this is going to just be literally like if price continues to just make bearish order flow heading into the news and throughout the news kind of like window, then yeah, we're probably not going to be trading today. Also, the ultimate kind of like invalidation by the time you watch this video, if somehow this happens, I don't think it's going to happen, but in the event that it happens, then this is going to be pretty dangerous, which is a candle close beneath 70,700 or like 70,800. If that happens, then that's clearly the market showing you that it's bearish. And it goes back to what I always talk about, where there are always 2 steps in trading, right? First is that you need to have an idea. You need to have a thesis about the markets before you can even do anything. If you don't even have an idea, then how are you supposed to even take a trade, right? But the second thing that you absolutely must need is that once you have the idea, you also need the market to kind of validate that, hey, it agrees with your idea. So in that case, we have an idea that price should bounce from the speedy array, but we actually need the market to bounce from the speedy array. But we actually need the market to put in 5-minute bullish order flow, which is not a lot to ask for before we actually dive into a trade towards the upside. And again, the setup for today is going to be pretty straightforward. It's super simple. Even at this point, like if I want to just, take a trade like that, put it on the 1 hourly chart and take 2R, like I could totally do it. Now, is that the ideal situation? Absolutely not, because, well, you're going to need quite a large move in order to confirm or rather finish that 2R move. So is that the trade that I'm going to be taking today? Absolutely not. I'm going to be waiting for that 5-minute CISD. Once that happens, I can kind of like refine the entry a lot. And at that point, like, yeah, it's going to be much easier to hit 2R compared to just trading from the 1 hourly time frame. Like, that's the whole point of having multiple time frames anyways. It kind of defeats the purpose if you have, if you have multiple different time frames, but you're just going to end up taking a trade on one. It kind of defeats the purpose of you having multiple different time frames if you're just going to be trading on a high time frame, for example, right? It's good to get clear on what purpose each of your time frames serve. And if that doesn't quite make sense to you, let me just explain real quick. For me here, the higher time frame is used to determine direction. That's why when I was on the daily chart, the only thing I'm looking for is, all right, do I look for longs or do I look for shorts today? Secondly, when it came to the 1 hourly time frame, all I was looking for was areas of interest, right? I need price to get into either bullish order blocks or bullish fair value gaps in the case of today before I start trading, because I need to frame my trade within high probability zones, right? It doesn't mean that I'm trading directly on the 1 hourly. I'm just like, okay, when price gets into this hourly order block, this is when I start looking for a trade, and the ultimate trade is going to come when I get into the lower time frame, which is used for execution. So once I'm on the 5-minute, I will wait for a CISD. In this case, it's just order flow, or just for the market to show that it is in fact going in the direction that I've already identified on the 1 hourly and the daily. And yeah, once that happens, I can get a very nicely refined entry, and I know that it's very likely going to work out because A, it's aligned with the daily bias, which means it's already aligned with the trend. Again, the trend is your friend. But secondly, it's also coming out of an hourly key level. And the majority of the time, when I see most kind of like new traders and they struggle with trading, or they just struggle with, getting to really random places at really random times, it's usually because like they're not trading out of key levels, and they're also not trading out of key timing zones, which is why I said that news window matters a lot, right? It's not just about price, time and price. So when you have a combination of all of this, that's when trading becomes super easy. That's how I've managed to achieve about a 75% win rate that is publicly documented on X and here on YouTube on these calls. And if this is something that, you kind of resonate with, a simple system that is high probability, then feel free to check out Blueprint. It is my complete A to Z system that will get you from where you are now to profitable within the next 90 days. But otherwise, I'm going to post any updates that I have onto X later. And also, don't sleep on USD Canadian. Like, the fact that you have USD Canadian news means that this is probably going to be pretty decent. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I'll definitely post any ideas that I have about USD Canadian onto X. Otherwise, see you guys later. Ciao, ciao. And have a good weekend.